For centuries, we looked to the stars and wondered if we were alone. We sent messages, we listened for whispers in the dark, convinced that any visitor would be a friend, a teacher. We were catastrophically wrong. The message that finally came was not one of peace. It was a declaration of war, an ultimatum delivered not with words, but with fire and death from a silent, crimson world. This isn't a story of first contact. It's the story of humanity's last stand, when our greatest cities became our tombs and our reign as masters of the earth came to a sudden and terrifying end. Now, the story itself. Tenny presents The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells.
No one would have believed, in the last years of the 19th century, that human affairs were being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than man's. With infinite complacency, men went to and fro over this globe about their little affairs, serene in their assurance of their empire over matter. Yet across the gulf of space, minds that are to our minds as ours are to those of the beasts that perish, intellects vast and cool and unsympathetic, regarded this earth with envious eyes, and slowly and surely drew their plans against us. It began with a series of flashes on the surface of Mars, observed by the astronomer Ogilvy. He thought them volcanic eruptions, a curiosity. Then one night a falling star was seen, larger than any before, trailing green smoke as it arced across the English sky. It landed not far from my home in Woking, on Horsell Common. I went to see it myself. It wasn't a meteor. It was a metallic cylinder 30 yards across, dark and scorched, half buried in the sand. A crowd gathered. There was excitement, not fear. Then we heard a sound, a faint rhythmic scraping from within. The circular top of the cylinder was unscrewing, slowly, agonizingly. It lifted, and something emerged. A grey, snake-like tentacle, followed by another. Then the thing itself slithered out, a large, greyish, rounded bulk, the size, perhaps, of a bear. It glistened like wet leather. It had two large, dark-coloured eyes and a V-shaped mouth which dripped saliva. A deputation of men, including Ogilvy, approached with a white flag, a sign of peace. They were met not with communication, but with a blinding flash of light. It was not a flash of light. It was a ray of intense, invisible heat. I saw it hit the pine woods, and the trees flared into white flame. I saw it strike a running man. He leaped into the air, a flaming torch. The deputation, Ogilvy included, vanished. Just gone. Panic erupted, a stampede of screaming, terrified people. I ran blindly, stumbling through the heather, the ghastly, silent death sweeping behind me. I made it home to my wife, babbling about the dead. We had to leave. We had to escape. That night, more cylinders fell. The military was called in. Soldiers with rifles and cannons, confident in their power. They positioned their guns around the common. From the pit, we saw the true form of our enemy rise. A monstrous tripod, a walking engine of glittering metal, 100 feet high. It strode over the treetops as a man might stride through a patch of weeds. The cannons fired. The shells were useless, bouncing off its metallic hide. The tripod answered with its heat ray. The soldiers, the guns, the landscape itself were wiped away in silent, searing flashes. Our defenses were a joke, our technology a child's toy. This was not a war, it was an extermination. I managed to get my wife to safety, sending her on with my cousin. I promised I would follow. But in the chaos, I was separated, caught in the tide of refugees fleeing towards London, and the tripods followed. They had a new weapon, a black heavy gas that sank to the ground, killing all it touched. London, the greatest city on earth, fell in a matter of hours. I met a soldier, an artilleryman, who had survived the slaughter.
It's all over. They're machines, not animals. They'll wipe us out. And what can we do? We're beat.
We saw the ironclad warship, the Thunderchild, make a final valiant stand in the Thames estuary. It charged 2 tripods, its guns blazing. It managed to destroy one, a glorious, fleeting victory. But the combined heat rays of the others turned it into a boiling, sinking wreck. With its sinking, sank the last hope of England. I found myself with another survivor, a curate, his faith shattered by the horror.
This is the beginning of the end, the great and terrible day of the Lord, when men shall call upon the mountains and the rocks to fall on them and hide them.
We took refuge in a ruined house, the walls smashed in by a falling cylinder. For 15 days we were trapped, prisoners in a tomb watching the Martians. They were not just destroyers, they were colonists. We saw them up close. How they fed. They had no digestive system as we know it. They captured living humans and directly injected the fresh blood into their own veins. We were no more to them than cattle. The curate's mind broke completely.
Why did we deserve this? We are God's children. I must speak to them. I must repent.
He became loud, hysterical, his shouting threatening to give us away. A Martian handling machine investigated the noise. A metallic tentacle snaked through the ruins. I had to silence him. In the struggle, I struck him, perhaps too hard. He fell silent. The tentacle seized his body and dragged him away. I was left alone with the silence and the constant thrumming presence of our new masters. After 2 days, the Martians moved on. I emerged into a new world, a red world. A strange crimson weed, brought from Mars, had choked all of Earth's vegetation, covering everything in a scarlet blanket. The air was thick with its spores. I wandered through the silent dead city. No life, no hope. Only the alien landscape and a haunting, wailing sound that echoed through the streets. I came upon the artilleryman again. He had grand plans.
We'll live underground, in the sewers. A new race of men, strong men. We'll forget all this weak, sentimental nonsense. We'll learn their science. One day, we'll fight back. We'll take our planet back.
But his grand vision was just talk. I saw he had no discipline, no real will. I left him to his dreams and his digging. I was broken, ready to give myself up to the Martians. I walked towards the sound, towards one of their machines standing still on Primrose Hill. I was ready for the end. The machine was motionless. No heat ray, no sound. As I got closer, I saw birds, crows, pecking at something inside the cockpit. The Martian was dead. I did not understand. I wandered on and saw another machine, toppled and silent. And another. Everywhere they were dead. The wailing I had heard. It was not a cry of victory. It was the sound of them dying. They had been slain. Slain after all man's devices had failed, by the humblest things that God, in his wisdom, has put upon this earth. By the bacteria in our air, in our water. The germs of disease, against which their systems were unprepared. Our microscopic allies had done what our armies could not. The invaders were dead. The war was over.
The War of the Worlds is a landmark of science fiction, but its core message is a profound critique of human arrogance. Wells wrote this during the height of the British Empire, a time when Britain saw itself as the unquestioned master of the globe. The novel flips this colonial narrative on its head. Suddenly, the technologically superior British are in the position of the colonized, dismissed as mere animals by a more powerful invader. The story's key point, its most vital lesson, is not about the aliens, but about the victor. The key exam question would be, what is the true victor in the War of the Worlds, and what does this reveal about humanity's place in the universe? The answer is that neither humanity nor the Martians won. The victor was nature itself, in its smallest, most overlooked form, bacteria. This reveals that humanity's supremacy is an illusion. We do not rule the planet. We are simply a part of its complex ecosystem. We are subject to the same biological laws as every other creature. The novel serves as a humbling reminder that for all our empires and technologies, our survival depends on forces far beyond our control. Next time on Tenny Presents Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne, we have looked outward, into the terrifying, hostile darkness of space. But what if the greatest wonders and the greatest adventures are not in the stars above, but deep beneath our own feet? Next time we leave behind the horror of invasion and descend into the breathtaking beauty of the unknown on a journey to the very center of our world.